Hey Noelle, great to have you here today. Thanks so much for coming. Yeah. You've had a busy day so far, a lot of classes?
Yeah, I actually just got out of class, so.
Dang, that's crazy. Well, hey, thanks for sitting down. I heard you're from San Diego. Tell me, what do you like to do back home in SD?
Yeah, I typically visit my family a lot. I usually actually go down and visit them like almost every weekend.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I'm a family girl.
Yeah, good for you.
But I would say like kind of growing up, I'd spend a lot of time going to like local cafes and restaurants and trying new foods with friends.
And San Diego, food is amazing.
Oh yeah,
so
it's definitely
cool.
a lot of variety. And then also just go to like some science museums, like the Air and Space Museum in Balboa.
Yeah.
Yep, it's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Was that kind of where it all started for you? Where it kind of got you interested?
I would say it played into it a little bit. I think I've sort of grew into a love for aerospace and rocketry in like late middle school, high school. I've been wanting to be an engineer for quite some time. I kind of picked up after my dad in that sense, but I would say that like my love for aerospace sort of facilitated out of like watching all the Hollywood movies, sci-fi movies dropping around that time,
like Interstellar and
all
that.
The Martian, and all that.
Those are so good.
And then also just like researching and exploring more engineering disciplines as I was getting closer to college and figuring out what I wanted to major in. And so yeah.
So it was like kind of like a build-up. And like, because I remember when those movies came out too, and I was like, I want to be an engineer, you know? That's so cool. So once you got to UCI, like there's like so many senior design projects. Like when I was picking, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a million. How did you decide? Because that must have been like crazy, especially with COVID.
Yeah, so obviously with COVID, there was a lot of like limited resources and opportunities were not very like advertised well. So when I was looking for ways to get involved, besides just being in Zoom classes, I was sort of looking for engineering projects because I figured like, you know, every college has some sort of design team or something.
Totally, yeah.
And I'd come from high school being on my school's robotics team, and I was super heavily involved, and it was really fun to have that sort of like competition aspect. Of being on a team, so I was sort of looking, some crunch time, some deadlines, but also just, you know, growing into a community of people that also love the same things you do. So I was sort of looking around on the ME department's like design project website and kind of researching, seeing what projects were available. I stumbled across the liquids team. At the time, obviously, there was no solids team, and it kind of grew out of the project when I had already been on the team. So now we're two separate teams. But yeah, so it was just liquids at the time, and I was like, okay, this is like liquid rocketry. That's kind of what I want to get into. It sounds super interesting. It's definitely a step up from anything I've been able to do in the past. So I reached out to the project manager at the time, and they did have applications open, but I kept pestering them. I was like, hey, this team sounds super cool. Like, how do I apply? Do you guys open applications like every so often? And so
getting your foot in the door, kind
of. So he did share it with me, and I was able to sort of like learn more about the project that way. So yeah, I did start at the end of my freshman year, and I had stayed on the project ever since. So.
Wow, that's so cool. And I like that story because like I know a lot of people will just like put out an application and then be like, okay. And then but like you really followed up. You're like, you hunted them down. You're like talking to the PM. That's so cool to see. Like that's a lot of it speaks a lot to the character and like the perseverance, you know. And as like, you know, obviously the project manager, that's a big role. Like you, I assume you have to do like a lot of like, you know, following up and like a lot of persistence through that project and like through like your, I guess your role on the project. What would you say are like a couple things that really like you've kind of found to be good techniques as like a leader, some things that you really enjoyed I guess doing to help the team grow and flourish? Yeah,
so I think, although it's cliche, I think like communication is super important. Making sure that, you know, you're in the loop with everyone on the team, that you're also in a good relationship with everyone on the team, to make sure that their like ideas are heard and that, you know, you have that creative aspect as part of the project. And also just like kind of focusing on deadlines. Like obviously with our last rocket, development took a little bit longer than we anticipated or we had hoped for, but you know, with getting closer to the launch deadline and, you know, getting that far into the project, we wanted to make sure that we were achieving our goals, and that's kind of what I learned a lot from the previous PM. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, going to this next rocket, that we have like a good plan laid out, and that we can hit this accelerated timeline for sure.
Totally, because we're gonna do it in 2 years now, which is a big step up from 6 years.
Split it to like a third of the time.
That's exciting. It's like a lot of a lot of hard work, but that's so cool. What do you do specifically? Because I know like Rocket Project, we have a very like fun culture. Like we like to hang out, we like to have a good time. How do you manage that like creative energy, also with, you know, the dichotomy of like getting work done and being focused, and like how do you balance all that?
Yeah, so obviously I want to make sure that like our project and, you know, hanging out in the lab is a very fun and enjoyable place to work. But I would say that, you know, balancing those two, or like a fun work environment and also just making sure that we stay up to date on projects, it's kind of the same as before. It's just like staying like in the loop with everyone. Focus. Also, like we're kind of picking up new strategies this year to sort of like measure that, I guess. We're making sure that like everyone's clear on their goals, and then like how those goals kind of change face as you go through this rest of the year, and then making sure that like with the new changes that we're doing with this new rocket, that they'll be able to sort of approach that in a more not formal way, but also structured. Since like with the crunch time of the previous launch, you know, we kind of lose that structure and having documentation being very thorough. Is so that is definitely something that we're focusing on this year, and making sure that, you know, we have a lot of good content for like future teams to go off of.
What are some things you're passionate about for, I guess, looking in the future? Are you hoping to get involved in like masters or PhD, or are you thinking more of like go straight to technical and like really get hands-on experience there?
Yeah, so those are typically the two routes that engineering students take. I would say for me, kind of building on what we said earlier, like I really like being hands-on and doing hands-on work. I think for a long time I've been eager to sort of pursue industry, so that's the route I'm taking.
Get some good,
so
skills.
I really enjoyed Rocket Project. This is basically the college level equivalent of exactly what I want to do in the future, so I'm really hoping to get into the new space industry. More of a startup vibe while I'm young, I think would be really fun. And honestly, since I came from like working on launch vehicle as a general member when I was introduced to the project, I think that's something that's really fun to me. So I wanted to work on like structures or just like the physical design of the rocket.
I didn't even know that. That's so cool. Launch vehicles is legit. They're doing some good things.
I love LV.
Well, hey, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for taking time to talk to me.
Of course.
It was really fun getting
to
be interviewed.
Sweet.